Hey, what's up guys? I'm Matt. Got another project out here in the shop today. It is raining sideways and blowing like crazy outside. Pretty typical spring weather here in the Pacific Northwest. So instead of riding, I'm going to be doing some tinkering. Now, this is my 2018 V-strom 650. And a couple weeks ago I bought this bar mount GPS navigation thingy right here. It's a super easy installation. It basically just bolts to the windscreen brackets. I am going to be using this old Samsung Galaxy S8 as a navigation device with Gaia Maps and Backcountry Navigator. I don't have a SIM card in it or anything, so it's just going to be a standalone, inexpensive Android small form factor tablet. I need to have some way to power this. Of course, this can charge wirelessly. However, charging wirelessly introduces extra heat. So I did not buy a wireless charging holder here because I'm concerned about the extra heat that may create. So we're going to be using the cable. I need some place to charge this with. I could buy an adapter for the factory power socket down here, or even replace the factory power socket. However, I wanted to leave this available for other accessories. So we have to install some other kind of charger here. So last night I spent a few minutes inside of Fusion 360 and I dreamed up a mount to send to my 3D printer. This is what I came up with. So basically this is a two-piece clamp design that clamps to the GPS mount. It has 4 bolts that hold it in place, and the ring is the appropriate diameter for a standard power socket. Now I also picked up this PD power supply here. This is a standard lighter socket form factor. In case anyone's wondering, these are M30 by 1.5 threads. Took me a little while to figure that out in CAD, but I just need to put 12 volts on this end, and I get 3 USB ports here to work with, and a little digital voltmeter. I love these things, they work great. I own probably 10 of them on various vehicles. I even have one in my airplane. You get a standard USB-A with a QC 3.0 charge capability and then 2 PD ports. And yeah, it works great. So 3 USB ports here with PD capability so I can fast charge stuff. This just fits inside of my mount, just like this. Nice and neat. And then I also 3D printed this back end cap here. That's why I know what the thread pitch is. This end is also threaded, and I'll be able to screw some flex loom in there to make this one nice, neat little setup. So there won't be any visible wires or anything. I think it's a good design. I think it should work nicely. Oh, and I did print this in ABS, so it should have some degree of temperature stability. Better than using some other alternative 3D printing filaments anyway. So let's get to work. Now back here on the bike, the physical installation is going to be pretty easy. I mean, I'm just going to clamp the thing right here on the bar mount. I have to figure out where to power it from, and I thought a little bit about that. I do not want to run it directly to the battery because I don't want it powered up at all times. USB power supply like that, there is some parasitic drain, and if I have it running on the battery at all times, it's going to kill the bike's battery over the period of a few days. And I already know that. I tested it on the DRZ. As you can see, I've got one right here on the DRZ. And yeah, if I leave it on after 4 or 5 days, the bike won't start anymore. And I just know myself. I'll forget it. I'll leave it turned on, and then I'll be wrecking the battery on the bike. So I only want it powered up when the key is in the on or the parking light position. And so that way basically I won't ever forget. As long as the bike's turned off and I have the key with me, then I can't have forgotten to turn the power off on that thing. Or of course, if it's in the park position, the parking lights on the bike will be on, and that will remind me that I've left power on here. So as you can see, I got this little tiny lamp here and the tail lights on, which hardly draw any power. So I spent a couple minutes evaluating this parking light circuit for suitability. With the lights on right here, I went and I pulled every one of these fuses, and oddly enough, the lights stayed on, which means that they are not protected by any of those fuses. It probably means that the main power fuse, which I think is a 30 amp fuse, goes right through the ignition switch, and that parking light circuit comes right off of the ignition switch instead of going back through the fuse box. So you know, adding the extra couple of amps that USB power supply could draw under the worst case conditions, that's not going to hurt anything on the bike. I really don't need to run a relay and another line back to the battery on this. Now, if I was installing something that drew a lot more power, yeah, definitely. I don't want to be taxing the bike's factory wiring, but the couple of amps that the USB power supply draws, not going to be any problem. Really, the idea is I just want to kind of split the dash open here a little and have a little bit of room to work inside, just so I can take a look at the couple of options I might have for where I'm going to tie into my circuit for power. This is the plug that plugs into the instrument cluster. This one right here is the one that plugs into the 12-volt power adapter. Now, my original plan was to tie into this little lamp right here. This is the one that sits right here at the bottom of the headlight assembly. Pops right out, super easy, and I'm definitely going to use it. And here's the reason why. This connector right here, I happen to have an entire assortment of connectors that will plug right into this. So I don't even have to splice into the motorcycle's factory wiring at all. I'll just take these two connectors, make up a pigtail jumper that goes in between this connection and the wiring harness on the bike, and just pull my power out of that. And that way in the future, I'll just be able to unplug my little jumper, plug this right back in, and there will have been zero modifications to the wiring harness on the bike. I took a minute with the circuit powered up to probe this. This wire right here is our positive, this one's our ground. Now, of course, on this incandescent light that doesn't matter, but it does matter that I get it correct when I send it to my USB power supply. So this should work nicely. Give me a nice, good electrical connection, good mechanical connection. I'll go ahead and crimp the terminals on as well, but this is kind of a guarantee here that I'm not going to be having anything fall apart. Those are pretty good crimps. I am going to solder these. And then I'm just going to slip some heat shrink right over this whole thing right here. And I'm also going to put a little bit of dielectric grease in there as well. And that should really make this a bomb-proof electrical connection. Yeah, this might be overkill for what I'm using this for, but it always feels right to do a good job on electrical. I hate for this kind of stuff to be causing problems further down the road, especially on an adventure bike like this where, you know, it could leave me stranded somewhere. Alright, this thing goes on here. Now I remember this was my positive, so I want my red to go in there. This goes like this. Click, I heard it click into place. Perfect. Click. This thing's all assembled. I've got the wiring run through this end cap here. All right, let's go ahead and thread this thing into the bike, and I'll test to make sure I got my positive and negative correct, and we can wire this thing up to the power socket. Well, I think that install is pretty clean. You really don't see very much right here. There's just that little short section of flex loom that's visible through the windscreen. I've got a little short 6-inch USB-C cable right here. So there's really not a whole lot of clutter up here on the dash. It doesn't interfere, obviously, with the handlebars or anything. I can put it in the parking lights mode to power everything here if I want, or of course it works when the engine is running as well. Alright, that wraps up this project. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. And stay tuned, I got a couple more projects planned for this V-strom right here. Probably do a couple of short trips with the Diavel before I put it up for sale. And with any luck, I might participate in a couple of group rides with the V-strom this summer. So if I do something like that, I'll be sure to bring the cameras along. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.